Yves Klein was a French artist born in 1928. He worked primarily in the 1950s and the early 60s until his abrupt death in 1962. Klein was a key figure in the Nouveau Realisme movement, and his use of live brushes influenced the performance art movement in the 1960s. His experimentation with color and space using monochrome paintings, music, and even an empty gallery revolutionized painting and took art beyond the simple abstraction of form. In the wake of World War II, European art shifted to representations of devastation. Dada and Duchamp could no longer shock the world in the way the Holocaust and atomic bomb did. Yves Klein aimed to drag art out of depictions of devastation and into a metaphysical realm. He believed that art was living and could no longer exist as a static product of the artist. Art must interact with the audience, existing as a performance or drama. Klein did not regard himself as a painter, but accepted the label foisted upon him. His most notable pieces are monochrome paintings using the power of color to transcend representation. Klein's early monochrome works, Yves' paintings, were of different colors and sizes. When presented on a wall, they lent themselves to being viewed as decorative. To correct this, Klein chose to focus on one color. Painting would be turned to pure sensibility by a blue epoch. In 1957, Klein's Proposition monochrome, Blue Epoch, was presented at the Galleria Apollinaire in Milan. Klein had formulated his own color of deep, vibrant, and dominating blue and patented it as International Klein Blue, or IKB. IKB was rolled onto 10 similarly sized wood panels. The use of a roller to apply the color removed any trace of the artist's hand. There was no evidence of drawing or mark making. The unframed panels were mounted on poles in front of the walls, giving them a sort of floating appearance. This reinforces Klein's intention of the pieces not being seen as decorative paintings, but rather pieces to be experienced. Each of the 10 monochromes were priced differently despite being practically identical to one another. The buyers selected their favorite and paid the price set for each. By pricing each painting differently, Klein demonstrated that each one had a unique pictorial quality that was perceived by something beyond material and physical qualities. The buyers being willing to pay the specified price for the painting of their choice illustrates a recognition of Klein's state of pictorial sensibility. Pierre Restany was a fledgling art critic that would become a champion of Klein's work. While most critics expressed their disapproval, calling the exhibition not even impudent, merely comical, Restany claimed that Klein had achieved pure autonomy of color. Klein had defined the immaterial using color. Klein's fascination with Rosicrucianism shines through in the IKB monochromes. Rosicrucian thought was that space is filled with the spirit, and the spirit exists free of form. In Christianity, the color blue is symbolic of heaven and godliness, in line with the traditional depictions of the Virgin Mary dressed in blue. Vasily Kandinsky had stated that the deeper the blue, the more powerful it draws man towards infinity. Klein believed that colors are the true inhabitants of space. By inhabiting the space of his monochromes with such a powerful, spiritual, custom blue color, Klein is offering the viewer an experience beyond our immediate reality. In the atomic age, Klein claimed, physical matter can be destroyed in a day, leaving whatever we can envision as the most abstract. He believed that the painter possessed an intangible colored matter that could not only be seen, but also perceived. Klein has moved color beyond simple representation and made it a vehicle into a metaphysical realm for the viewer. Beyond his paintings, Klein experiments with the immaterial musically as well. Klein had composed a monotone symphony in 1947. He called it Monotone Silent Symphony. It was not performed until 1960, where Klein conducted 10 musicians as well as 3 nude women. The women covered themselves in IKB paint and were directed by Klein to press themselves against the wall and floor of the gallery, leaving impressions of their bodies on the paper. These women were Klein's living brushes. These are the beginnings of Klein's anthropometry works, and an influential force in the performance art movement of the 1960s. The musical piece consisted of an orchestra playing one continuous note for 20 minutes, and then silence for 20 minutes afterwards. The note being drawn out for 20 minutes removes any memory of its beginning or end, focusing on the duration and the time in between. Klein claimed that this would induce vertigo and an aspiration outside of time in the viewer. Focusing on the extensiveness of the note and the silence that follows, the symphony does not exist within our perception of time because it is neither born nor will it die. In our conscious perception, it becomes not sound but silence. Klein has produced audible presence. One continuous note, just as Klein's use of one continuous color, creates a sense of the infinite and offers entry to a reality beyond what is visible. The symphony is not a musical piece in the same sense that the IKB monochromes are not really paintings. They are materially present, but beyond that, they are presences of what Klein has called the indefinable. Klein had also experimented with space and the presence of the immaterial in an installation at the Gallery Iris Claire in 1958, titled Specialization of Sensibility in the Raw Material State of Stabilized Pictorial Sensibility. The gallery windows were painted solidly in IKB, blocking the view inside. Visitors were guided through the side entrance by two Republican guards, being forced to present their invitations or pay a fee for their impregnation of the space. Klein had presented the gallery with bare white walls, an empty display case, and white drapes over the entrance. This seemed to be an empty gallery devoid of any paintings, beyond Klein's painting of the walls to remove any evidence of past installations. Many critics were less than enthused and could not help but to point out that Klein had presented a void. Klein and Restany adopted this description and ran with it. In the piece's remembrance, the verbose name is traded for le vide, or the void. While on the surface the gallery appeared empty, Klein explained that his blue monochromes had in fact immaterialized, and this was the result. The aim was to create an invisible pictorial climate, a presence that cannot be achieved in the normal gallery setting. The perceived emptiness should create the intangible better than any figurative or non-figurative painting, even a monochrome. The gallery is in fact not empty, as its space contained the pictorial sensibility and the presence of nothing else emphasized it. This was Klein's end goal, and he stated that the blue monochromes were mere ashes of his process of denying the aesthetic gaze and turning it into inner contemplation. The turning of the visible paintings invisible is Klein's move toward a total pictorial reality. Yves Klein led post-war European art away from grave depictions of the aftermath of World War II. Klein changed the way color was used in art, shifting it towards something to be perceived rather than just seen. His use of music, silence, and even emptiness opened the mind of the viewer and allowed them to experience something beyond reality through art.